Alrighty, we're going to get started now. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Herman. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Herman Law. Our firm exclusively represents victims of sexual abuse in Florida and around the country. And we call this press conference today to announce the filing of a very important case. I'm here with my client, Sean, who is using his name in a very, very brave manner. And we want to talk about some very disturbing things that are related to this case. And this is a case against the Catholic Church. It's a case against the Diocese of Orlando, and specifically the abuse that my client suffered at St. Joseph Catholic Church and the school, as we allege in the complaint. So this complaint was filed today, and what we allege in this case is the following storyline. Sean was in 7th grade in the 2012-2013 school year. Prior to that, he had been at the school for several years where he met Father Bob Hoeffner, who was the priest at the parish and at the school. And Sean was an altar server. Sean was a student. And during his confessions, Father Bob began to explore sexual issues and began to groom Sean. And then eventually started to molest Sean, as we allege in the complaint. Now, this abuse started around the 2012-13 school year and continued all the way through the beginning of 9th grade. But I imagine there's some disturbing things about the case, and this is one of those facts. During the 2012-2013 school year, we have spoken to a witness who was another student in the class. And this other student began to have concerns about Father Bob to himself and others. And this student specifically went to the school counselor, and as we allege, was Dr. Gilbert. And he told Dr. Gilbert, "I'm concerned about Father Bob. I think something's going on. And I see Father Bob is always taking Sean and another boy, Brandon, into classrooms alone. And I think he's doing something to the boys." Unfortunately, nothing happened to stop Father Bob. And the abuse continued. Now, eventually, during the 9th grade, it stopped. And Sean suffered in silence for many years. One of the things that is also very disturbing about this case is that one of the locations where Sean was being sexually molested was Father Bob's home that he shared with his sister Sally, who was also a staff member at the St. Joseph Catholic School. And Sean and his friend Brandon would come over to do yard work for Father Bob, and also he would have them engage in other activities, including bringing Sean into his bedroom alone, where he would molest him. Now, what Sean knows is that when he would come out of the bedroom, his friend Brandon would go in, and sometimes Sally would be making strawberry jam with him while Father Bob was in the bedroom with his friend. When Sean was in the bedroom, he was molested. And this happened again and again and again. Now, one of the things we keep hearing from the Catholic Church is how they are different and how they are transparent. Well, I have a lot of questions for the Bishop of Orlando. When, as we all know, there was a shooting, a tragic shooting last year, a tragedy on so many levels, including the fact that some police officers were injured. And Father Bob and his sister were both shot and killed by Brandon. The diocese made a statement at the time about cautioning the public not to speculate. Well, you can't ask people not to speculate when you're hiding the truth. Why hasn't the church come clean about what they knew about Father Bob? I'm demanding that they produce this file, not only in this lawsuit, which I will get, but the public and the parishioners have a right to know the truth. People are operating in silence right now, and it's well past time where we can continue to live in a society where predators are being protected. Based on what we allege in this complaint, this is a cover-up of the highest level. And Sean should have been spared. We're looking into allegations that even predate that as part of our investigation. And we will have a lot of questions that we will have answered. This is a timeline of Father Bob's time with the Diocese of Orlando. Now you'll notice here, Father Bob retired in 2016. Well, we have spoken to people who tell us that he was forced to retire because of some concerns that had come forward. And that in fact, at one point, Father Bob returned to the church and he was escorted off the property. Why did the bishop talk about that last year when he said don't speculate? So here we are today, and Sean has bravely come forward to stand up for himself, to seek justice, and really on behalf of other potential victims that are out there, so that they don't have to suffer in silence alone, and they can get help. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean now. He has a few comments, and then we'll take some questions.
How are you guys today? This is my first time doing this, so please, I don't even know what to say. But how I feel about all this going on is like, I have sleeping problems. I really can't sleep because I have nightmares going on. It takes me a while to sleep. I have mood swings, and
You want to talk about why you're coming forward?
I want to protect and prevent anything that could happen with me or my friend that could escalate even worse than what happened with my friend. And I want to be the voice in that you're not alone, and that I'm here and I believe you. And yeah.
We'll take some questions. Yes.
You said this was a cover-up. What can you tell us about what the church or the school did to hide Father Bob's actions?
Well, based on our investigation so far, they were expressly warned that he was doing something inappropriate with Sean and another boy. Sean never heard, he was never warned. His family was never warned. The parishioners, the students and their families were never warned. It was covered up. And those poor boys were served up to this alleged predator. Yes?
Liberty News says, we reached out to the diocese. They gave us a statement that says the Diocese of Orlando was not made aware of any allegations of abuse during Father Robert Hoeffner's pastoral leadership, nor after he retired in 2016. They have denied this. Your comment?
Well, we've spoken to a witness who says different. Another student who's got, no dog in this fight, who has come forward and told us expressly about his warning to representatives at St. Joseph. And so I think that that's not true. I also, did they disclose about why he was escorted off to school after 2016? And let's see his file. Let's see what's really in that file.
You all have requested the file already?
We will immediately. And when we just filed a complaint today, that's one of the first things we do is request the file.
What did that student say when they came forward to the diocese?
I'm sorry?
What did that student say when they came forward to the diocese?
In 2012-13 school year, he met with his counselor at the school, and he said he's concerned about Father Bob and that he's doing things to the boys. I don't know his exact words, but it's to the effect that he's taking these boys alone into a room. That's obviously something that should have been reported and investigated, and parents told about Father Bob suspended and investigated. See if these boys are safe. We know that didn't happen.
If they do give you the file, do you believe that they will turn over anything that may be negative, or they perhaps will sweep the file? Are you concerned about that?
Well, my experience with the Catholic Church is that they're very reluctant to turn over the full file. And again, this is my experience with dioceses across the country. That not that they're destroying the file, but they're withholding key documents, and eventually we go back to court and we will get them. We're entitled to them. Yes.
Sean, have you kept up at all with your friend Brandon? And to be clear, that's Brandon Kappas?
He's passed away.
I meant before he passed.
Oh yeah.
What can you tell us about that and about what it was like for you when you heard about him passing?
Well, I moved to New York, and that's where I currently live now, and we didn't really communicate as much as when I lived down here. He would say, as in Brandon would say that he would still be visiting Father Bob, which I don't consider him a father. I kind of consider him a monster in a way now. And he would just say that he would go over there to help him out or do Bible studies or And I don't know if I really answered your question, but
Why choose to file the lawsuit now and not maybe during when Father Bob was still alive and a time to, I guess, get both sides of the story?
Well, I think I won't speak for Sean, but I will just say, in my experience representing thousands of victims of childhood sexual abuse, it takes time for victims to come forward. And I don't know that Sean would have come forward this soon if the police weren't involved last year and they contacted Sean. And so I think after finally some of the facts came out this year is when Sean felt safe enough to come forward. And that's really another issue I think that's going on kind of behind the scenes here. We're hearing from a lot of witnesses, they're scared to come forward. People are still scared of the Catholic Church. And I'm here to tell you, you're safe. If you know something that's important, please come forward and let's get the truth out. You want to comment about why coming forward now?
I think coming out forward would protect a lot of us and prevent a lot of things that could happen potentially and make you safe, I think, too.
Yes.
It is a delicate situation, but do you have any type of proof at all?
Proof of what?
Proof that the abuse happened?
There's in a plea, I don't know.
Well, it's fine. I'm not going to. You don't have to answer that. Yeah, well, starting with the fact that my client's here and he's alive and he can testify and talk about the horrific things that happened. It's part of the reason so many predators get away with molesting kids for so long is because it's done secretly. It's not done openly where people witness it. So, yeah, his testimony is sufficient proof. Plus, you put in the facts of this case where there was previous notice, and we'll get into the file. We'll see what else is in that file. early in the case now. We just filed it. We obviously are just going to begin our discovery process. So I'm confident we'll have all the proof we need by the time we get to trial. Yes?
For Sean, I know that, to put your name out there takes an incredible amount of bravery to do that. And you kind of talked about this before, but the decision for that, what was that like deciding whether or not I'm actually going to do this for you?
It was skeptical because obviously, I was still scared and I didn't want to come out and things that happen, I'm not going to get into it. I didn't want people to look at me different, and especially my close family or close friends that I have. But yeah, it took a lot for me, and I just wanted to heal, and seek support. And I found a group of a team that really is supporting me well.
You had said that police had reached out to Sean after Father Bob was killed. What made them reach out to you initially?
Do you know how they found you? Yeah, I understand from Brandon's family, they gave the police Sean's name. And then the police reached out to Sean as part of their investigation. And he did disclose to them back then that he was abused. Yes?
Question for Sean, are you getting support from any of your former classmates, your friends and family, now that they reflect on what happened? Are you getting any of their support now that they know?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah, and most of them are probably just going to hear about it the first time today. And so I expect you will hear from other classmates.
What does justice look like at the end of this for you guys?
So, let me address that, and then Sean, let you address that. So the only thing we can do in our system of justice is sue for money damages. There's no snapping fingers, there's no magic wand to take away what happened. But that measure of justice is symbolic, and it's important. Number one, it gives Sean a voice. It empowers other victims to come forward and seek help. It protects children in the future by exposing institutions that enable predators, and exposes predators. And so justice is really, I think, getting the truth out. I do know, and I believe from my experience, that when victims have a voice, they begin to heal in new ways. Their healing is a journey. It's not a destination. No one's ever healed. But having a voice and getting closure in a civil case validates the victim that it wasn't their fault. Most victims are compliant victims, meaning they're groomed, they're abused by somebody they know, and so they feel guilty, they feel ashamed, they feel like they've done something wrong. When they haven't, but that's how victims feel. And so when I see down this journey and this road for Sean, is he'll begin to understand it wasn't his fault, and therefore he can heal in new ways. Sean, you want to talk about what?
I really don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you guys. But I just want to heal and move on in a way, And I forgot who asked this question, but another thing that bothers me too is when I go past a church or anything religious wise, I get anxiety a lot, and I can't even look at it, or you know what I mean? And yeah, I just get anxiety a lot.
Yeah, what Sean's talking about is a trigger. That's unfortunately common for many victims of childhood sexual abuse. It's a trauma. Many have PTSD or symptoms of PTSD. So going past the reminder, like the church, it starts bringing back these horrific feelings. Yes.
Yeah, so you're saying that when you go past churches and things like that, you do get those feelings of anxiety. My question was going to be, would you say that you, have a different outlook on religion? Would you not consider yourself a person of faith no more after going through something so horrible like this?
I would say yes. What happened, I definitely have a different outlook. I trusted someone at a young age and told my problems or, confession and stuff like that, and he used certain stuff that I told him, and then,
Yes.
Certainly, an allegation like this is not new. We've heard allegations like this over the years from different places, different cities, different countries. What makes you think you can be successful in this lawsuit, given the history of previous lawsuits against the Catholic Church and different dioceses, and the situation continues in many people's minds?
Yeah, well, my experience in history suing the Catholic Church gives me great confidence that I'll be successful here. And typically, well, very often we're seeing cases from decades ago where certain states allow these cases to be filed. This is a recent case. And so, yeah, we feel extremely confident. We already have evidence to show that they knew, should have known that Father Bob was unsafe. And will be interesting to see what follows in terms of additional reports. Father Bob was with this community for a very long time. He was at St. Joseph's for almost 20 years. Yes, and so there's family there, and so there's a lot of people we're gonna speak to, and we'll look forward to receiving that information as well.
Just a point of clarification, the abuse happened at home or did it also happen at the school?
So the abuse happened at the school and at Father Bob's home that he shared with his sister Sally. Yes.
I'm sorry to keep bringing up Brandon because, Sean, I know this is your experience and not his, but I am wondering for you what it was like for you hearing about how Brandon reacted. That's obviously different from you taking action and going through the legal system.
hearing what happened with my friend Brandon was definitely shell shocking because he was not a violent person at all, and we all have our ups and downs in life as well, including myself. But like, he was not a violent person. He had the most warm heart, and he would basically give you his last dollar in his pocket to help other people. And just hearing that, I almost didn't want to believe it, and I just didn't want to believe it. Thought it was not true until like 2 weeks ago. Reading it, it's like, damn, it's really true.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.